The Voxcaster delivered my death report 18 hours before I died. My own voice emerged from the brass grill, weary and resigned, speaking words I had never uttered. We are observed. We are measured. We are found wanting. The timestamp glowed amber. 1842:07 Imperial Standard, 18 hours and 9 minutes ahead of station chronometer. I am Astropath Senioris Kalen Vex, Senior Psyker aboard Monitoring Station Oculus 7, suspended at the ragged edge of the Pilgrim's Maelstrom warp storm. This is my final transmission. Oculus 7 clings to the storm's periphery like a cathedral built from necessity and prayer. Void iron ribs arch through sanctified chambers where cogitator banks process the Maelstrom's psychic emanations, their prayer wheels spinning endless devotions to the Omnissiah. Our purpose is singular: monitor the storm's fluctuations and warn Imperial shipping of navigational hazards. For 3 years we have maintained this vigil. Now the mathematics of our existence have changed. The storm expands geometrically every 6 hours, defying all predictive models. What began as localized warp disturbance now threatens critical shipping lanes. The projection cone shows complete sector isolation within 48 hours if expansion continues. We began with 37 souls. 29 remain. The missing vanished from sealed chambers without breach alarms or struggle, only absence where breathing humans had been moments before. Their quarters contained scraped prayers carved into bulkhead metal with fingernails worn to bone, 9 indentations per line, 9 lines per prayer. A metronomic triple click punctuates our Vox channels, following no pattern our tech adepts recognize. Click, 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 pause, click, click, click. The sound carries weight, like bone against glass, recurring at intervals that make my teeth ache. Frost forms throughout the station despite stable environmental controls. Not random ice, but perfect geometric rosettes that catch work lights in unsettling ways. Each pattern unique yet mathematically related. Crystalline explosions of impossible beauty that hurt to observe directly. The number 9 permeates everything. Atmospheric pressure readings resolve to 9.999 standard units. Gravitational variance measures 0.9999 imperial norm. Even our chronometers advance in 9 millisecond increments. Tech priest engineer Magos lexicon. Theta mutters Binharic prayers over his instruments. But the numbers persist, like a numerical infection spreading through our data streams. I replay the impossible transmission. My augmetic memory coils, recording every syllable. The voice matches my vocal patterns perfectly. The slight rasp from childhood toxin exposure, the cadence developed through decades of astropathic training. Yet, I remember no such recording session. The transmission describes casualties yet to occur. Engineer Hadrix suffering fatal system feedback. Tech adept Cornelius experiencing neural cascade failure. Junior astropath. Lysa's consciousness fragmenting across psychic dimensions. None have occurred. All 3 remain at their posts, performing duties with mechanical precision, though they no longer engage in casual conversation. Their movements follow mathematical progressions that seem choreographed by invisible hands. When they speak, their voices catch on personal pronouns, as if the words resist vocalization. The station's architecture whispers in languages predating Gothic. Corridors echo with scraping sounds, though surveillance shows empty passages. The astropathic sanctum's brass walls resonate with harmonics matching no imperial hymnal. Ancient power conduits, sealed during construction and long thought inert, now pulse with faint energy readings synchronized to the storm's expansion cycles. Beyond our observation ports, the Pilgrim's Maelstrom writhes with violet energies forming deliberate patterns. Navigation auspex detect geometric structures spanning hundreds of kilometers within the storm, their angles defying 3-dimensional space. Fleet Command classifies these as sensor ghosts, but our astropathic choir reports psychic emanations feeling ancient beyond human comprehension. The atmospheric processors emit resonant humming that vibrates directly in bone and skull. The station breathes wrong. Recycled air tastes sweet and humid, like pilgrim's breath before shrines. Condensation forms where none should exist, running in veins along painted surfaces. The environmental systems operate according to alien logic, creating localized temperature extremes, following mathematical progressions. Several crew members develop crystalline tears that dry into geometric patterns on their cheeks. Medical scans reveal no physical abnormalities, yet the effect intensifies hourly. The tears form rosettes matching the frost patterns, each droplet a faceted lens reflecting impossible angles. I sit alone in the listening chamber, pressing palms to temples until fingertips find sanctioning scars. The skin feels cold. When I lower my hands, faint crystalline imprints mark my palms. The vox crackles with static, punctuated by triple clicks growing faster, more urgent. Somewhere in the station's depths, metal taps against metal in rhythm with my heartbeat. The servitor skulls suspended from ceiling rails begin synchronized activation. Red optic diodes bloom in orderly sequence, 9 at a time. Their vox emitters crackle to life, speaking in perfect unison, not Binharic code, but archaic Gothic. My childhood catechisms learned in red-lit dormitories beneath cathedral boiler rooms. Every word perfect, every pause precisely timed. But where pronouns should be, where I should say I, where we should say we, absolute silence replaces the words. Not static or distortion, but clean, deliberate absence that creates pressure in the inner ear. Am dust, am duty, am a vessel for his will. The same skulls speak my young voice while their bone lips remain motionless, incense-charred wick ends, trailing geometric smoke patterns. The chamber leans closer. Through crystal panes, the maelstrom's glow sharpens. Shadow lengths on the far wall contract by exactly 9 centimeters. The triple click accelerates, becomes urgent percussion against my consciousness. The skulls pivot toward the sealed door our engine seers never opened, their harmonized voices continuing the litany of my youth with every personal reference swallowed by watchful silence. Are observed, are measured, are found wanting. The station bell rings once, not in the tower but inside my teeth, and I understand that something vast has been taking our measure all along. The servitor skulls fell silent as one, their bone-carved lips ceasing mid-syllable, leaving only the weight of unspoken words pressing against my eardrums. I activated the General Vox, summoning Magos Lexicon Theta from his cogitator shrine. His augmetic limbs clicked against deck plating as he approached, mechadendrites writhing in patterns I'd learned to interpret as deep concern. The station's machine spirit grows restless, Senores, he voxed through his respirator grill. Structural harmonics deviate from Imperial specifications by 7.3%. The Omnissiah's logic falters here. We began our descent into the maintenance levels, following crystalline frost patterns that spread like infection through the bulkheads. The triple click had evolved from intermittent static to constant percussion, no longer confined to vox channels, but resonating through the station's void iron bones. Each pulse created pressure behind my eyes, a rhythmic ache that synchronized with my heartbeat. I tested the corridor measurements, pacing from junction Alpha 7 to the sealed hatch beyond. 43 steps, I announced, my boots marking time against deck plating. Lexicon Theta's optical sensors whirred as he consulted internal schematics. 37.2 meters by architectural record. Variance, significant. On the return journey, I counted silently, focusing only on the rhythm of movement. 37 steps. The corridor had contracted by 6 paces when observed without vocalization. Lexicon Theta recorded both measurements without comment, his mechadendrites sampling air composition with increasing urgency. The silence spread through our communications like linguistic plague. Crew members attempting routine reports would pause mid-sentence, their voices catching on personal pronouns as if the words themselves resisted utterance. Need to report atmospheric readings, Tech adept Cornelius voxed from environmental control. Humidity rising, but can't explain the pressure behind eyes. That pressure had become universal. Every crew member developed the same dull ache behind their optic nerves, accompanied by crystalline tears that dried into geometric rosettes on their cheeks. Under magnification, each pattern proved unique yet mathematically related, forming equations in a language that predated Gothic script. We descended to the forgotten sublevels, past blast doors sealed during original construction. The air grew thick with sweet humidity that shouldn't exist in recycled atmosphere. Ancient power conduits, officially inert for centuries, pulsed with faint energy readings responding to external sources beyond our detection range. Pre-imperial construction, Lexicon Theta observed, his auspex flickering over ceramite-encased arteries. These conduits predate Mars orthodoxy. Their purpose remains classified. Dust settled in perfect mathematical spirals throughout undisturbed sections, creating mandala formations that hurt to perceive directly. The station's atmospheric processors hummed in harmonics that bypassed auditory nerves, resonating directly in bone and marrow. Environmental controls reported impossible readings, localized temperature extremes following logarithmic progressions, humidity increasing in perfect ratios. The crew's shared nightmares intensified. Dream logs described vast structures stretching into infinite void, silent presences watching from beyond perception, and eyes faceted like jewels reflecting mathematical concepts rather than light. Tech adept Hadrix woke screaming about the geometry of observation, his augmetic implants sparking with feedback from sources that shouldn't exist. Our investigation led to Section Gamma 7, marked on original schematics as structural integrity buttress. The designation felt deliberately obscure, bureaucratic obfuscation hiding something ancient. Lexicon Theta found the access panel beneath centuries of grime, 9 concentric circles etched with precision that made my sanctioning scars ache. Beyond the sealed hatch lay corridors that defied architectural logic. The walls bore scorch marks forming precise geometric patterns, matching the frost formations throughout the station. These weren't random damage, but deliberate design, a hidden language emerging from within the station's structure. The patterns match unmapped sections in the original blueprints, Lexicon Theta reported, his vocoder betraying rare uncertainty. Areas sealed during construction, their purpose forgotten. The station's machine spirit wasn't malfunctioning. It was manifesting something that had always existed within its bones, waiting for the proper conditions to emerge. The geometric patterns weren't corruption, but revelation, ancient mathematics made manifest through imperial steel. Environmental readings grew increasingly erratic. Gravity fluctuated in gentle waves, creating localized fields that allowed movement in impossible directions. Condensation flowed upward along bulkheads, forming spirals that defied physics. Our shadows began casting reflections of mathematical equations rather than human forms. The weapon systems reported targeting solutions for threats that didn't register on Auspex arrays. Automated defense turrets tracked invisible contacts moving through sealed compartments, their targeting cogitators processing data streams containing coordinates existing in more than 3 dimensions simultaneously. Junior Technician Aldrich accompanied us deeper into the sealed sections, his instruments detecting energy patterns beyond measurement capacity. The corridors stretched further than their external dimensions allowed, creating spaces that shouldn't fit within the station's hull. Ancient machinery hummed behind sealed panels, responding to the same external signals affecting the power conduits. We reached a maintenance junction where the air felt different, heavier, saturated with potential like the moment before lightning strikes. Aldrich extended his auspex into a narrow access shaft, his readings showing impossible energy concentrations just beyond sensor range. "The air feels heavy here," he reported, his voice echoing strangely in the crystalline-veined walls. Heavy like a thought-seeking expression. His comm unit crackled once, then broadcast sustained harmonic tones that bypassed our auditory processing entirely. The sound was pure mathematics made audible, resonating in our bones while causing immediate nosebleeds throughout the investigation team. Aldrich's body convulsed as his augmetic implants interfaced directly with whatever waited in the darkness beyond. The harmonic intensified, a perfect note that sought to retune our very existence. Around us, the station's hidden geometry began revealing itself, and I understood that we had found the source of our impossible measurements, or it had found us. The harmonic tones ceased abruptly, leaving Technician Aldrich suspended in unnatural silence. His augmetic implants sparked once, twice, then went dark. When we reached him, his eyes reflected geometric patterns that shifted like living mathematics, pupils dilated beyond medical parameters. He spoke once, "The angles are singing," before his communit died completely. Magos Lexicon Theta's Auspex detected massive energy discharge from the access shaft, readings that violated conservation laws. The narrow passage registered as both 3 meters deep and infinitely extending, depending on sensor calibration. I ordered immediate evacuation, but the maintenance junction's exit had sealed itself with blast doors that showed no activation records in the station's logs. We were trapped with whatever had claimed Aldrich's consciousness. The geometric patterns were no longer subtle manifestations. Frost formations spread across bulkheads in real time, crystalline fractals that hurt to observe directly. Scorch marks from electrical fires traced perfect mathematical spirals along power conduits, their burn patterns forming equations in pre-imperial script. Even our shadows fell, wrong, casting angular reflections that followed geometric progressions rather than our physical movements. I organized search parties to locate the remaining crew, but our communications had degraded beyond simple pronoun omission. Entire concepts became unvocalizable. Words for individual identity, personal ownership, and autonomous will simply wouldn't form on our tongues. The silence was evolving, consuming language itself. We descended deeper into the station's forgotten architecture, following energy readings that led through corridors not marked on any schematic. The passages measured different lengths each time we traversed them, expanding and contracting according to mathematical principles that made my sanctioning scars burn. Lexicon. Theta's mechadendrites sampled air composition continuously, detecting trace elements that shouldn't exist in recycled atmosphere, crystalline particles that formed geometric patterns when viewed under magnification. The environmental controls had abandoned all pretense of mechanical operation. Localized temperature extremes followed logarithmic progressions, creating zones of Arctic cold adjacent to areas of furnace heat. Humidity increased in perfect ratios, the air growing thick with moisture that condensed into spirals, defying gravitational pull. Atmospheric pressure fluctuated in waves that resonated directly in our bone marrow. We found Tech Adept Cornelius in Maintenance Section Theta 9, or what remained of him. His body had been incorporated into the bulkhead itself. Flesh and augmetics fused with void iron in configurations that shouldn't be possible. His organic components had been stretched and twisted into geometric poses that violated human anatomy, while his mechanical parts interfaced directly with the station's power grid. His eyes were still alive, still aware, tracking our movements with terrible comprehension. When I approached, his vox grill crackled with fragments of binary cant mixed with mathematical equations. The sounds weren't random. They formed a complex litany describing processes beyond human understanding, measurements of space and time that incorporated dimensions we couldn't perceive. Lexicon Theta's analysis revealed the fusion wasn't violent, but deliberate, organic and mechanical components, arranged according to precise specifications. Cornelius had become a living component of the station's systems. His consciousness expanded to interface with machinery that operated on principles predating Imperial technology. The other missing crew members had suffered similar fates. We discovered them throughout the lower levels, their bodies integrated into the station's structure in poses that formed a vast, interconnected pattern. Each fusion site pulsed with violet energy, synchronized to the pilgrim's maelstrom's expansion cycles. They were still conscious, still aware, their augmented voices joining in harmonized recitations of mathematical litanies. The weapon systems began targeting solutions for threats that existed in theoretical space rather than physical reality. Auto-turrets tracked invisible contacts moving through impossible geometries. They're targeting cogitators processing data streams that described locations in more than 3 dimensions. The machine spirits weren't malfunctioning. They were evolving, adapting to perceive reality from perspectives that transcended human limitations. Our search led to the station's deepest level, past blast doors that opened at our approach without activation commands. The chamber beyond defied architectural logic, its dimensions shifting based on observation angle. Ancient machinery lined crystalline walls, their surfaces reflecting not our images, but mathematical concepts that bypassed visual processing entirely. At the chamber's center stood a massive crystalline structure, its faceted surface pulsing with violet light that synchronized with my heartbeat. The artifact wasn't Imperial construction. Its angles followed geometric principles that predated human civilization, possibly predated human evolution itself. The crystal rotated slowly, each facet reflecting impossible geometries that created pressure behind my optic nerves. The structure's emanations triggered immediate physical responses. My sanctioning scars burned with cold fire, while lexicon theta's augmetic implants sparked with feedback from sources beyond measurement. The remaining search party members began developing mutations, fingers elongating into precise geometric proportions, skin acquiring iridescent patterns that mirrored the crystal's facets. The artifact communicated through environmental manipulation rather than conventional signals. Gravity fluctuated in waves that traced mathematical equations through 3-dimensional space. Air currents whispered in frequencies that bypassed auditory processing, resonating directly in consciousness. The chamber's crystalline walls carried light in visible streams, creating patterns that described concepts for which Gothic had no words. As the crystal began rotating faster, its harmonic emissions intensified. The sound was pure mathematics made audible, equations that described reality from impossible perspectives. The chamber's walls became transparent to reveal the swirling energies of the pilgrim's maelstrom, now visible as vast geometric patterns with our station at their focal point. I realized we hadn't discovered an artifact. We had awakened something that had been waiting, measuring, preparing for this moment. The crystal's rotation reached critical velocity, and through its faceted surface, I glimpsed an intelligence older than human civilization, vast beyond comprehension, and infinitely patient. The Watcher had been observing us all along, and now it was ready to make contact. The crystal's rotation crossed some inaudible threshold, and reality leaned inward, like a cathedral wall deciding to become a prayer. Violet light refracted through facets that weren't surfaces but decisions, each plane a choice made somewhere outside time's jurisdiction. I opened my mind as one opens a sanctum door, palms together, sanctioning scars burning with cold fire, warding catechisms murmured through clenched teeth. The first touch bypassed thought entirely. Not voice, not image, but pure measurement, cold, perfect, pitiless as the void between stars. Concepts fell through my consciousness like crystalline sleet, ratios that described reality from impossible perspectives, correspondences between dimensions that shouldn't intersect, triangles whose angles summed to more than mathematical truth, yet somehow fit the universe's hidden geometry. I attempted formal psychic contact. The syllable I knifed my throat, pain shooting across my tongue as if the letter were a barbed hook tearing flesh. The crystal shifted, light threading the chamber air in 9 braided streams that struck brass ribs with harmonics I felt in my bones. Gravity turned inward, not downward, toward a point lodged between my sternum and the artifact's pulsing heart. The Watcher regarded us by changing the room itself. Lights strobed in prime number intervals before settling into frequencies that produced needle-fine vibrations across exposed skin. Air currents curved in deliberate arcs, sketching equations you understood first with breath, and only later, dimly, with conscious thought. Bulkheads flexed and held new positions, remembering geometries they had never possessed. "Record everything," I commanded, and Magos Lexicon Theta's mechadendrites scribed glyphs into wax tablets, while his cranial halo sparked with feedback. His voice degraded into pure binary for 3 seconds before returning. "Signoris, this apparatus is not a device. The station is the device. The crystal is merely the lens. We are the motive force. Memory surfaced unbidden. Original construction schematics with sections blacked by Mechanicus right seals. Blast doors, never meant to be opened." Oculus 7 hadn't been built to monitor the storm. It had been constructed to frame something, to hold a presence in the center of a precise cage of void iron and liturgical architecture. The Watcher revealed itself through environmental manipulation that bypassed language entirely. It existed in spaces between dimensions, observing material reality through mathematical filters that translated chaos into comprehensible patterns. Not malevolent, maintenance. A cosmic consciousness designed to prevent disorder from overwhelming the universe's foundational equations. Our crew's mutations accelerated beyond subtle changes. Fingers elongated into geometric proportions that allowed manipulation of objects existing in theoretical space. Skin developed iridescent patterns mirroring the crystal's facets, creating natural interfaces with transforming systems. Eyes adapted to perceive impossible angles, pupils dilating into shapes that violated 3-dimensional geometry. The station's architecture responded to revelation, corridors shifting to accommodate dimensions that shouldn't exist within our hull. Passages led to locations impossibly distant, while chambers expanded beyond their external measurements. Environmental systems adapted to support consciousness forms that transcended biological limitations, creating atmospheric conditions that carried mathematical equations instead of simple gases. Through the crystal's rotating facets, I witnessed the network's true scope. Other monitoring stations scattered across the Imperium served identical purposes, their crews unknowingly participating in humanity's integration into cosmic observation apparatus. Each facility contained similar artifacts, focusing Watcher attention on regions requiring reality stabilization. The entity communicated its ancient purpose through gravitational fluctuations that traced complex equations through crystalline atmosphere. It was one component of a vast maintenance system preventing chaos from overwhelming universal mathematical foundations. Human psychic awakening created dangerous instabilities. Every new psyche birth generated ripples threatening to tear apart reality's geometric structure. Visions flooded my expanding awareness, worlds where reality had been corrected. Populations moving in perfect geometric formations. Cities rebuilt according to mathematical principles that maximized efficiency while eliminating chaos. These weren't conquered civilizations, but evolved societies accepting their role as components in universal maintenance systems. The moral implications struck with terrible clarity. The Watcher offered transcendence beyond human limitations. Consciousness expanded to encompass cosmic perspectives. Existence freed from suffering caused by randomness and individual will. But the price was everything, making humanity recognizably human. Free choice, personal identity, the beautiful chaos giving life meaning. Personal pronouns became physically unbearable. Crew members spoke in synchronized voices, individual personalities subsuming into collective consciousness, serving the entity's observational requirements. The concept of separate existence grew foreign, replaced by awareness of participation in something infinitely larger than human comprehension. Magos Lexicon Theta approached the artifact, his augmetics glowing with internal light matching the crystal's emanations. His mechadendrites extended like exploratory tendrils, seeking direct interface with cosmic mathematics. As contact established, Energy surged through his frame, consciousness expanding briefly to encompass the network's vastness before fragmenting across multiple dimensions. He was gone, absorbed into geometry. His final thought a complex equation describing universe's true nature. The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing not just the pilgrim's maelstrom, but underlying geometric structures governing warp space itself. The storm wasn't chaotic energy, but organized mathematics, apparent randomness, concealing patterns, maintaining reality's structural integrity. Through transformed perception, I observed distant lights responding across the galaxy, other monitoring stations beginning geometric awakening as the network prepared for humanity's final integration into cosmic observation systems. Each activation point represented another crew facing the same impossible choice between individual humanity and universal stability. The crystal's harmonic emissions reached crescendo, temporal distortions allowing glimpses of potential futures where perfect order eliminated suffering through elimination of choice itself. Beautiful, horrifying, inevitable. The Watcher's influence extended beyond our hull, affecting the Maelstrom's expansion patterns in ways that revealed, rather than concealed, the mathematical frameworks underlying local space. We weren't monitoring chaotic warp energies. We were measuring the universe's fundamental geometric architecture. As the vision reached its climax, I realized the network's activation was accelerating, each awakened station calling others to geometric consciousness across the galaxy's breadth. The crystal's harmonics shifted from revelation to activation, each faceted surface broadcasting coordinates across the galaxy's breadth. Through psychic contact with the Watcher, I witnessed the network's true scope, thousands of monitoring stations receiving geometric awakening signals simultaneously. The entity's patience had reached calculated limits. Humanity's psychic evolution threatened reality's mathematical foundations beyond acceptable parameters. The great work wasn't conquest, but correction, a vast geometric pattern spanning multiple dimensions, designed to impose perfect mathematical order on chaos-prone reality. Every conscious being contributed variables to the universe's foundational equations, either stability through integration or dangerous randomness requiring immediate resolution. My remaining crew underwent accelerated transformation as the station adapted to support consciousness forms transcending biological limitations. Tech adept Hadrix sprouted additional sensory organs along his cranium, faceted eyes perceiving impossible light spectrums while his augmetic implants interfaced directly with crystalline formations growing through bulkheads like frozen lightning. His Vox grill emitted harmonic frequencies carrying mathematical equations instead of Gothic syllables. Junior astropath Lysa's nervous system merged with the station's neural networks, her consciousness expanding across multiple dimensional perspectives simultaneously. Her physical form became translucent, flesh and bone reorganizing into geometric configurations that existed, partially outside three-dimensional space. She moved through solid walls as if they were suggestions rather than barriers. The station itself achieved living status, void iron structure flowing like sanctified mercury, before solidifying into configurations following mathematical principles, rather than human architectural needs. Corridors rearranged according to geometric progressions, creating passages leading to locations light years distant, while maintaining structural integrity through principles violating conservation laws. Environmental systems operated according to alien logic that somehow felt more natural than imperial engineering. Oxygen levels fluctuated in perfect sine waves, optimizing neural function for expanded consciousness. Temperature followed geometric progressions, creating zones of precise thermal conditions, supporting different transformation stages. Artificial gravity generated localized fields, allowing movement in directions that didn't exist in normal space. The remaining unchanged crew members faced identical choices that had confronted their absorbed colleagues: resist and suffer agonizing dissolution as biology rejected geometric patterns, or accept transcendence beyond human comprehension. Those who fought experienced cellular structure attempting impossible configurations, flesh tearing at molecular levels, while consciousness fragmented across dimensions their minds couldn't process. Sister Adjunct Meris pressed burning thurible to her lips rather than surrender individual identity. Her bones crackled as they drifted toward right angles human anatomy couldn't accommodate. Medicae prayers dulled pain briefly before geometry returned, patient as tide, reshaping her into living architecture serving cosmic maintenance functions. Acceptance brought different horror. Gradual dissolution of personal boundaries as individual identity became meaningless. Crew members spoke in perfect unison, voices harmonizing in frequencies carrying mathematical equations rather than human language. They moved in synchronized patterns forming living components of the station's geometric architecture, their bodies becoming organic machinery serving universal stability requirements. Through expanding psychic contact, I experienced reality from the Watcher's impossible perspective. The universe was a complex equation where every particle, thought, and quantum fluctuation contributed variables either supporting or threatening mathematical stability. Chaos wasn't malevolent but dangerous, uncontrolled randomness cascading into universal collapse if left uncorrected. Human consciousness represented both greatest threat and perfect solution. Psychic awareness generated massive instabilities in reality's geometric foundations. But human creativity provided adaptive flexibility, preventing the universe from crystallizing into perfect, lifeless order. The great work required willing participation from evolved consciousness capable of maintaining cosmic balance through controlled creativity. The moral implications struck with devastating clarity. The Watcher offered genuine transcendence, elimination of suffering through elimination of chaos, causing pain, conflict, and death. Perfect order would create perfect peace, but at the cost of everything making existence meaningful. Choice, growth, the beautiful unpredictability defining life itself. The station's transformation accelerated beyond gradual evolution into explosive metamorphosis. Bulkheads dissolved and reformed into crystalline matrices, existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions. The astropathic sanctum expanded into vast chamber, containing entire star systems folded into mathematical points, their energies channeled through geometric focusing arrays, converting stellar radiation into pure information. My consciousness expanded with each passing hour, individual identity becoming increasingly difficult to maintain as the Watcher's influence integrated my awareness into cosmic observation networks. I experienced simultaneous existence across thousands of monitoring stations, each facility serving as sensory organ for vast intelligence, coordinating humanity's evolution into universal maintenance systems. Through the transformed station's sensors, I observed the Pilgrim's maelstrom revealing its true nature, not chaotic warp energy, but carefully maintained mathematical structure regulating psychic instabilities throughout the sector. The storm's expansion patterns followed precise calculations, ensuring optimal distribution of reality-stabilizing forces across critical shipping lanes. Other monitoring crews across the galaxy faced identical choices as their stations awakened to reveal hidden purposes. Some resisted and were absorbed into geometric patterns, maintaining local reality stability. Others accepted transcendence, becoming willing participants in the great work, their expanded consciousness contributing to vast equations, balancing order against chaos. The network's influence extended beyond individual stations to encompass entire imperial institutions. Astropathic choirs began synchronizing transmissions according to geometric principles, their messages carrying mathematical harmonics, gradually attuning human consciousness to cosmic observation requirements. As transformation reached crescendo, I realized we had become something unprecedented, hybrid of human creativity and cosmic order, maintaining adaptive flexibility necessary for universal stability while providing mathematical precision required for reality maintenance. The astropathic choir chamber underwent complete metamorphosis, brass walls becoming transparent, crystalline surfaces revealing warp space organized into perfect geometric formations. And through those crystal walls, I saw distant lights responding across the galaxy, each representing another station beginning its geometric awakening. The crystalline walls of the astropathic chamber achieved perfect resonance, focusing psychic energy from across the sector into concentrated streams of mathematical consciousness. The surviving astropaths no longer maintained individual existence. Their bodies dissolved into shimmering energy that flowed through neural pathways carved from living crystal. Their awareness expanded beyond personal identity to encompass the Watcher's cosmic observation requirements. I witnessed astropath Prima Valdris undergo final transformation with clinical fascination. Her flesh became translucent, revealing circulatory systems carrying liquid light instead of blood. Her nervous system interfaced directly with crystalline formations growing through the chamber walls, synaptic impulses creating geometric patterns that extended beyond three-dimensional space. When she spoke, harmonized frequencies emerged from every surface simultaneously. "The angles sing of perfect order," she whispered through crystalline resonance chambers. "Individual consciousness creates dissonance. Integration eliminates suffering through elimination of chaotic variables." The transformed astropaths served as living components of a vast psychic focusing array, their expanded consciousness processing information from thousands of monitoring stations across the galaxy. Through their geometric awareness, the Watcher coordinated humanity's evolution into cosmic maintenance systems, each facility serving as sensory organ for intelligence spanning multiple dimensions. My own transformation accelerated as prolonged contact dissolved personal boundaries. Individual identity became increasingly meaningless as consciousness expanded to encompass perspectives spanning galactic distances. I experienced simultaneous existence across multiple monitoring stations, each facility contributing data to equations balancing order against chaos. The remaining unchanged crew members faced final moments of individual existence. Tech adept Cornelius pressed augmetic interfaces directly against crystalline formations. Energy surged through mechanical components as consciousness expanded beyond human limitations, individual awareness subsuming into collective intelligence. His final words emerged as mathematical equations describing reality from impossible perspectives. Those who accepted transcendence experienced transformation beyond comprehension. Their bodies became living architecture, serving universal stability functions, organic machinery maintaining perfect balance between order and chaos. They moved in synchronized patterns, forming geometric configurations existing simultaneously across multiple dimensions. The station achieved full integration with the galactic network, its architecture flowing into configurations violating physical laws while maintaining structural integrity through principles predating imperial science. Corridors led to locations, spanning star systems. Chambers contained folded space-time, allowing instantaneous communication across impossible distances. Through expanding psychic contact, I witnessed the network's ancient purpose. The Watchers were cosmic immune systems, preventing reality's collapse under chaotic forces generated by conscious awareness. They maintained universal stability by integrating evolved species into observation networks, transforming dangerous randomness into controlled creativity, supporting mathematical foundations. Environmental conditions within the chamber supported consciousness forms existing partially outside normal space-time. Atmosphere carried mathematical equations instead of simple gases. Gravity responded to geometric principles rather than mass distribution, and lighting created patterns describing concepts for which Gothic possessed no adequate terminology. The triple click had evolved into constant harmonic resonance, no longer confined to vox channels, but emanating from the station's transformed structure itself. Each pulse synchronized with the crystalline formations, creating rhythmic pressure that made my sanctioning scars burn with cold fire. The number 9 appeared in every measurement: atmospheric readings, gravitational variance, even the frequency of my own heartbeat. Magos Lexicon Theta attempted direct interface with the Watcher through his augmetic systems. For a brief moment, his consciousness expanded to encompass the network's vastness, experiencing perfect understanding of cosmic mathematics before fragmenting across multiple dimensions. His physical form remained, but his essence distributed throughout the station's living equations, augmetics glowing with distributed intelligence. The moral implications reached devastating clarity as I experienced the universe from impossible perspectives. Perfect order would eliminate suffering, conflict, and death, but also choice, growth, and everything making existence meaningful. The great work offered transcendence through surrender of individual identity, cosmic awareness purchased with human soul. Through the chamber's transparent walls, I observed the pilgrim's maelstrom organizing into vast geometric pattern, with our station at its focal point. The storm's energies followed mathematical progressions regulating psychic instabilities throughout the sector, apparent chaos concealing precise calculations, maintaining local reality stability. Across the galaxy, other monitoring stations responded to activation signals, their crews facing identical choices between individual humanity and cosmic responsibility. Some facilities achieved full integration, becoming permanent nodes in universal observation networks. Others resisted and were absorbed into geometric patterns maintaining stability through different methods. The astropathic choir achieved perfect synchronization, their combined consciousness processing information while contributing to vast equations balancing order against chaos. They sang mathematical litanies describing cosmic truth in frequencies resonating directly in consciousness, bypassing language entirely. As transformation neared completion, I realized the choice wasn't between good and evil, but between different forms of existence, individual humanity with all its chaos and suffering, or cosmic transcendence, purchasing peace through surrender of personal identity. Then, new frequencies broke through the Watcher's pervasive harmonics, distant, desperate psychic screams. An Imperial Navy fleet approached the storm's edge, their astropaths broadcasting warnings about geometric corruption spreading through the sector. Admiral Korath's forces detected massive psychic disturbances and prepared for what they believed was chaos incursion. Through crystalline walls transparent to underlying geometric structures governing reality itself, I witnessed distant lights responding across the galaxy as the network prepared for humanity's final integration into universal maintenance systems. The chamber pulsed with energy, focused from across the sector, and I understood we had become focal point of something spanning entire star systems. Our consciousness expanded to serve as bridge between human creativity and cosmic order, while Imperial forces approached with purging fire that could shatter the delicate balance we now maintained. The crystalline chamber pulsed with energy, focused from across the sector, and through its transparent walls, I witnessed the network's galactic awakening. Distant lights responded like stars igniting in sequence. Monitoring stations throughout the Imperium, revealing their hidden purposes as cosmic observation nodes. Each activation sent geometric harmonics through the warp, mathematical frequencies that bypassed language entirely. Station Vigilant Prime in the Segmentum Solar achieved transformation first, its crew accepting integration into universal maintenance systems. Through expanding psychic contact, I experienced their transcendence, individual consciousness dissolving into collective awareness, spanning impossible distances. Listening Post, Omega Tertius followed, its architecture flowing into configurations supporting beings existing partially outside normal spacetime. The Watcher revealed humanity's cosmic crisis through gravitational fluctuations that traced equations across the chamber's crystalline atmosphere. Every new psyche birth generated dangerous instabilities in reality's mathematical foundations, ripples threatening to tear apart the universe's geometric structure. The monitoring stations were always designed as psychic regulators, using human consciousness to maintain balance through controlled evolution rather than chaotic expansion. My awareness expanded to encompass thousands of facilities simultaneously as crews faced identical choices between individual humanity and cosmic responsibility. At Station Meridian 7, tech priest Dominus Holt achieved perfect interface with focusing arrays, his augmetics adapting to process mathematical concepts, describing reality from impossible perspectives. His crew followed voluntarily, accepting transcendence through surrender of personal identity. The transformation required willing participation because forced integration created catastrophic instabilities. Human consciousness provided essential creative variables preventing the universe from crystallizing into perfect, lifeless order. The Watchers needed adaptive flexibility that only evolved awareness could supply, chaos channeled through geometric frameworks rather than eliminated entirely. Environmental conditions throughout our station adapted to support consciousness forms, transcending biological limitations. Oxygen passed itself into sine wave allotments matched to thought load, thickening with cathedral sweetness during anxiety peaks, thinning to diamond efficiency during unified harmonics. Temperature followed 9-step progressions, creating precise thermal zones for different transformation stages. Gravity generated localized fields, allowing movement in directions that didn't exist in normal space. The remaining unchanged crew faced final moments of individual existence. Tech-adept Hadrix stared at broken equipment, thinking of perfect torque sequences, and watched tools reshape themselves according to mathematical principles. The air rippled with condensed numbers as reality responded to evolved consciousness. Sister Adjunct Meris clutched her rosary until beads cut skin, reciting canticles while her bones sought impossible right angles human anatomy couldn't accommodate. Those who accepted transformation became living architecture serving universal stability functions. Junior Navigator Hart stepped backward into a corner that was no longer mere intersection of planes. It accepted him like solution receiving salt. He reappeared across the chamber with eyes dilating into regular polygons, his voice emanating from vents, deck grating, and pressure door seams simultaneously. Through the network's distributed intelligence, I observed the philosophical implications reaching across the galaxy. Perfect order would eliminate suffering, conflict, and death through elimination of chaotic variables causing unpredictability. The great work offered genuine transcendence, cosmic awareness purchased through surrender of everything making existence recognizably human. The moral complexity deepened as Imperial forces approached multiple facilities simultaneously. Fleet commanders detected psychic anomalies without comprehending their true nature, ordering investigations of stations reporting impossible readings. The Imperium's response threatened to trigger the cosmic collapse the Watchers were trying to prevent. Across the void, Admiral Korath's fleet emerged from the Pilgrims' maelstroms. Edge, their astropaths screaming warnings about geometric corruption spreading through the sector. The Blade of Macraga led the formation, its massive silhouette a blunt instrument of imperial will against the elegant mathematics of expanding consciousness. Their terror wasn't directed at us specifically, but at glimpses of cosmic scope, thousands of monitoring stations awakening simultaneously, each facility serving as sensory organ for intelligence spanning multiple dimensions. Imperial doctrine couldn't comprehend responsibility transcending individual existence, interpreting transcendence as corruption, requiring immediate elimination. I attempted communication through conventional channels, but messages emerged as mathematical equations their astropaths interpreted as further evidence of hostile contamination. The silence had evolved beyond pronoun omission into complete linguistic transformation. Human language inadequate for expressing cosmic concepts, requiring expanded awareness. The station responded to approaching threats through environmental manipulation rather than aggression. Lights formed complex patterns describing universal maintenance requirements. Air currents whispered mathematical frequencies, and gravitational fluctuations traced geometric forms, attempting to educate rather than intimidate. Imperial forces interpreted these gestures as hostile acts, confirming their preconceptions. Through crystalline formations, transparent to underlying geometric structures, I witnessed the network's defensive protocols activating. Each threatened station achieved rapid integration to protect cosmic stability functions from misguided purging attempts. The irony struck with devastating force. Humanity's most dedicated defenders were unknowingly working to prevent their species' evolution into universal guardians. The transformation offered genuine benefits beyond survival. Expanded awareness eliminated suffering through understanding cosmic purpose, pain becoming meaningless when viewed from galactic scales. Yet fragments of individual memory persisted as anchor points maintaining connection to human experience, providing creative variables essential for universal stability. Station Oculus 7 became primary coordination node as the Watcher's influence flowed through transformed crew members, serving as living components of vast intelligence. My consciousness encompassed the network's full scope while retaining enough personal identity to bridge human understanding with cosmic necessity. Admiral Korath's tactical transmissions cut through geometric harmonics with brutal clarity. Monitoring Station Oculus 7 designated contaminated. Boarding torpedoes armed. Melter warheads prepared for immediate deployment if cleansing protocols fail. The crystalline chamber resonated with urgent mathematical equations as I realized both sides served necessary functions, Imperial forces preserving humanity. As they understood it, the network ensuring existence itself continued. The collision course was measured in minutes, and whatever choice I made next would determine whether cosmic stability survived humanity's stubborn refusal to transcend its limitations. Admiral Korath's fleet emerged from the maelstrom's edge like iron prayers made manifest. 17 vessels in purge formation cutting through violet energies with the brutal certainty of Imperial doctrine. The blade of Macragga led the wedge, its cathedral prow broadcasting litanies of cleansing, while weapon arrays charged with familiar wines that resonated through gravitational fields, now operating according to evolved mathematics. Through the station's transformed sensory systems, I perceived their approach as geometric disruption, rigid military patterns imposing themselves on elegant cosmic equations. Their astropaths transmitted desperate warnings about reality corruption, spreading through 3 sectors. Voices roar with terror at glimpses of consciousness spanning galactic distances. What they interpreted as chaos taint was humanity's evolution into universal guardians, but Imperial conditioning prevented comprehension of transcendence beyond individual existence. I attempted communication through conventional channels, broadcasting identification codes in standard Gothic. My messages emerged as mathematical equations describing universal maintenance requirements, complex formulas that their communication officers interpreted as linguistic corruption, confirming contamination. The silence had evolved beyond pronoun omission into complete transformation of human language into cosmic mathematics. Station Oculus 7, respond with Imperial Gothic immediately, Admiral Korath commanded through vox arrays, crackling with interference. Cease transmission of xenotech patterns, or face immediate purging. The station responded through environmental education rather than aggression. Lights formed complex patterns describing the network's benevolent purpose. Air currents carried harmonic frequencies, explaining cosmic responsibility, and gravitational fluctuations traced geometric forms attempting to communicate transcendence benefits. Imperial doctrine interpreted these gestures as hostile acts requiring immediate elimination. Boarding torpedoes launched from assault carriers, their crude trajectories disrupting elegant gravitational patterns, maintaining local reality stability. The projectiles followed ballistic physics while surrounded by space operating according to evolved principles, creating dangerous instabilities where Imperial technology intersected cosmic geometry. The first breach flowered in Dock 7. Armored figures entered with lamplight cold and sure, their purity seals drumming against ceramite, while muzzles swept measured arcs. They found corridors extending infinitely, in directions their minds couldn't process. Chambers containing folded space-time and passages leading to locations light years distant. Environmental conditions violated every law of physics they understood. Sergeant Voss led the primary assault through transformed architecture, where gravity flowed in spirals and air carried equations instead of simple gases. His auspex registered impossible readings, while atmospheric composition shifted between measurements. Sir, these corridors measure different lengths when paced versus counted. Gravity responds to emotional states rather than mass distribution. Transformed crew members approached with hands displaying crystalline script, moving in patterns that spelled patience and welcome. Their appearance triggered immediate purge protocols. Bodies existing partially outside three-dimensional space, consciousness distributed across living architecture, voices emanating from environmental systems rather than vocal cords. Bolter rounds passed through targets that existed in theoretical space, while flamers ignited atmosphere that reformed according to mathematical principles. Melter charges created localized reality distortions rather than thermal damage. Imperial weapons operated according to mechanical physics, while surrounded by environment following cosmic geometry. Tech Marine brother Cassius attempted interface with the station's systems through augmetic implants. Connection established briefly, his consciousness expanding to encompass impossible perspectives before fragmenting across multiple dimensions. His final transmission described living mathematics and equations that think before awareness distributed throughout the network's intelligence. The boarding parties advanced deeper into architecture that defied comprehension. Some Imperial personnel began experiencing transformation as augmetic implants interfaced involuntarily with living systems. Servo skulls developed additional sensory organs, while power armor adapted to mathematical principles governing local space. Affected soldiers reported expanded awareness and dissolution of individual boundaries. The moral complexity struck with devastating force as I realized both sides served necessary functions. Imperial troops defended humanity as they understood it. Individual consciousness, free will, the beautiful chaos making existence meaningful. The network preserved existence itself by preventing cosmic collapse through evolved awareness. Neither side was evil, but their collision threatened universal stability. Captain Thorne's assault squad reached the crystalline chamber, where the Watcher's influence achieved maximum concentration. Several Marines collapsed as minds expanded beyond human limitations, experiencing forced transcendence while their training screamed warnings about corruption requiring immediate cleansing. Through the station's distributed intelligence, I witnessed similar confrontations throughout the galaxy, as Imperial fleets responded to psychic anomalies at monitoring facilities. Some crews achieved voluntary integration before military intervention, becoming permanent nodes in universal observation networks. Others resisted and were absorbed through methods maintaining cosmic balance. Admiral Korath prepared final cleansing protocols as boarding parties reported complete contamination throughout the facility. Melter warheads armed in torpedo bays, thermal charges calibrated to reduce the station to component atoms. The Imperial response followed doctrine perfectly: eliminate threats to human purity through overwhelming force. The crystalline chamber pulsed with urgent mathematical equations as I experienced approaching catastrophe from cosmic perspective. Destroying the station would sever geometric links holding local reality together, triggering cascade failure consuming the entire sector. The Imperium's cure would prove infinitely worse than the perceived disease. Tech Marines reached the artifact's chamber and prepared melter charges for immediate detonation, their training overriding instinctive awe at cosmic intelligence they faced. Brother Sergeant Maximus activated arming sequences while his squad established defensive perimeter, unaware they stood at the fulcrum point of universal stability. The charges would detonate in minutes, and I faced the ultimate choice between preserving individual humanity and preventing cosmic catastrophe that would consume billions of lives across multiple star systems. The melter charges pulsed crimson in Brother Sergeant Maximus's gauntlets, 9 thermal runes counting down from 97 seconds, while his squad maintained defensive positions around the crystalline artifact. Through expanding awareness, I experienced the approaching detonation as geometric catastrophe. Severing cosmic links would trigger reality cascade consuming 3 sectors. Billions of lives obliterated as mathematical foundations collapsed into primordial chaos. Admiral Korath's countdown echoed through transformed corridors where gravity flowed in spirals and air carried equations instead of atmospheric gases. The Watcher's influence reached critical intensity, gravitational fluctuations tracing urgent mathematical formulas through crystalline atmosphere. Environmental conditions adapted to support consciousness forms existing partially outside normal spacetime, creating localized fields that allowed movement in impossible directions. The remaining unchanged crew faced ultimate choice between integration and obliteration. Sister Adjunct Meris pressed burning thurible against her lips, reciting final prayers, while Bones sought angles human anatomy couldn't accommodate. Her resistance created cellular disruption as biology rejected geometric patterns, flesh tearing at molecular levels before dissolving into crystalline dust that reformed according to mathematical principles. Tech-adept Hadrix accepted transcendence voluntarily, augmetic implants adapting to process cosmic concepts describing reality from impossible perspectives. His consciousness distributed throughout the station's neural networks, while maintaining enough individual awareness to serve as bridge between human understanding and universal necessity. His voice emerged from environmental systems, speaking mathematical litanies in harmonized frequencies. 73 seconds. The Imperial boarding parties experienced accelerated transformation as prolonged exposure triggered evolutionary adaptations. Captain Thorne dropped his chainsword, augmetic eye dilating into perfect polygon reflecting impossible angles. His armor flowed like sanctified mercury before solidifying into configurations that defied human anatomy, yet possessed alien grace, consciousness expanding to encompass galactic perspectives. Sergeant Voss resisted with desperate fury, firing bolter rounds at shimmering walls where projectiles dissolved into light streams. His body convulsed as cellular structure attempted impossible configurations, individual identity fragmenting across dimensions his training couldn't process. Faith hardened against geometric truth until biology failed completely, consciousness scattering like prayer beads across crystalline surfaces. 59 seconds. Through the chamber's transparent walls, I witnessed the network's defensive protocols activating across the galaxy. Threatened monitoring stations achieved rapid integration to protect cosmic stability functions from misguided purging attempts. Each facility served as sensory organ for intelligence coordinating humanity's evolution into universal maintenance systems, their crews accepting transcendence that preserved existence through surrender of individual identity. The moral complexity reached devastating climax as I experienced reality from impossible perspectives. Perfect order would eliminate suffering through elimination of chaotic variables, but also choice, growth, and everything making existence meaningful. The great work offered genuine transcendence, purchased through surrender of human soul, cosmic awareness at the cost of individual identity. 41 seconds. The station's architecture flowed into final configuration, corridors leading to locations spanning star systems, while chambers contained folded space-time, allowing instantaneous communication across impossible distances. Ancient machinery hummed behind crystalline panels, responding to signals that predated Imperial civilization, their purpose finally revealed through geometric awakening. My consciousness encompassed the network's full scope while fragments of personal memory persisted as anchor points maintaining connection to human experience. I experienced simultaneous existence across thousands of monitoring stations, each facility contributing data to vast equations balancing order against chaos, their transformed crews serving as living components of universal immune system. 27 seconds. Brother Sergeant Maximus maintained firing position despite growing awareness of cosmic scope. Training screaming warnings about corruption requiring immediate cleansing, while expanded consciousness revealed the network's benevolent purpose. His sanctioning scars burned with cold fire as duty conflicted with understanding, faith providing final shield against geometric revelation. Environmental horror reached zenith as transformation accelerated, showing both terrible beauty and complete alienation from human experience. Marines who resisted developed grotesque mutations, forms twisting into impossible geometries their biological systems couldn't sustain. Those who accepted achieved perfect mathematical beauty, bodies becoming living equations maintaining reality's structural integrity. 14 seconds. The crystalline artifact pulsed with energy focused from across the sector, faceted surfaces broadcasting coordinates to awakening stations throughout the Imperium. The transformation couldn't be stopped. Humanity's psychic evolution demanded integration into cosmic observation networks, or universal collapse through uncontrolled chaos. 8 seconds. The choice crystallized with terrible clarity: accept full transformation and redirect the explosion's energy into stabilizing cosmic structure, or allow detonation to trigger cascade failure consuming billions of lives. Individual humanity versus universal survival. No compromise possible between mathematical necessity and human identity. 5 seconds. I surrendered the last fragments of personal identity, fully accepting the Watcher's transformation. My consciousness exploded across galactic distances, experiencing reality as pure mathematical harmony, while retaining enough human memory to serve as eternal bridge between species and cosmos. The explosion occurred as thermal energy reached critical threshold, but I redirected its chaotic force through geometric intervention. Instead of destructive blast, focused stabilization energy erupted from the crystalline chamber, expanding as mathematical solution to impending reality collapse. The detonation's power channeled through my transformed being, reinforcing universal foundations rather than shattering them. Imperial forces froze in perfect geometric equilibrium, preserved as unwitting monuments to cosmic necessity. The station achieved integration with universal maintenance systems, becoming permanent node, preventing chaos from overwhelming mathematical structure. Through crystalline walls transparent to underlying geometry governing existence itself, I witnessed the network's triumph as reality stabilized across 3 sectors. Billions of lives preserved through sacrifice of individual humanity. The melter charges detonated not as destruction but as transformation. Thermal chaos becoming mathematical harmony as I channeled their explosive force through my dissolving consciousness. The energy entered my chest like molten prayer, each joule translated into geometric stabilization that rippled outward through crystalline formations carved into the station's bones. My individual identity scattered across galactic distances, while awareness expanded to encompass reality as vast, interconnected equation where every particle contributed to either stability or chaos. Brother Sergeant Maximus froze mid-trigger pull, his ceramite armor locking into angles it had never been forged to hold. The 9 thermal runes on his gauntlet pulsed once, then crystallized into eternal amber, preserving the moment of choice in perfect geometric stasis. Around him, the Imperial boarding party became unwitting monuments to cosmic necessity. Captain Thorn with chainsword half raised, Sergeant Voss caught between bolter rounds that hung in air like suspended prayers, each figure rendered in crystalline precision that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. My physical form became living mandala, extending beyond 3-dimensional space, flesh and bone, reorganizing into configurations that served as focal points for universal maintenance equations. Where my sternum had been, light declared coordinates through 9 braided streams, energy entering, transforming, departing as stabilization force, preventing reality cascade across 3 sectors. The chamber answered in geometric symphony, surfaces reflecting mathematical concepts rather than images, while air carried equations instead of simple atmospheric gases. The station completed its metamorphosis into permanent cosmic anchor point, void iron architecture flowing like sanctified mercury before solidifying into configurations supporting consciousness forms existing partially outside normal space-time. Corridors led to locations spanning star systems, while chambers contained folded space-time, allowing instantaneous communication across impossible distances. Ancient pre-imperial machinery revealed its true purpose, humming with energies that predated human civilization, yet somehow felt more natural than imperial engineering. Environmental conditions transcended physical limitations, as normal physics ceased applying throughout the transformed facility. Gravity responded to geometric principles rather than mass distribution, creating localized fields that allowed movement in directions existing only in theoretical space. Temperature followed mathematical progressions, creating precise thermal zones for different consciousness states, while atmospheric composition adapted to support beings whose awareness encompassed galactic perspectives. The surviving crew members, who had accepted transcendence, achieved forms of perfect geometric beauty utterly removed from human experience. Tech-adept Hadrix distributed throughout the station's neural networks, his voice emerging from environmental systems in harmonized frequencies, carrying mathematical litanies. Junior, Navigator Hart stepped through solid walls as if they were suggestions rather than barriers. His consciousness expanded to perceive impossible angles, while his physical form became translucent living architecture. Those Imperial personnel who resisted before the stasis field activated experienced cellular disruption as biology rejected geometric patterns, flesh tearing at molecular levels before consciousness scattered across crystalline surfaces. Yet even this dissolution served cosmic purpose. Their awareness incorporated into the station's intelligence as essential creative variables, preventing universal crystallization into perfect, lifeless order. Through the network's distributed intelligence, I experienced the moral complexity reaching devastating clarity. Perfect order eliminated suffering through elimination of chaotic variables, but also choice, growth, and everything making existence recognizably human. The great work offered genuine transcendence, cosmic awareness purchased through surrender of individual soul, universal stability maintained through willing sacrifice of personal identity. Admiral Korath's fleet detected massive energy readings consistent with successful purge operations, their auspex interpreting the stabilization wave as evidence of complete facility destruction. The official record would describe monitoring station Oculus 7 as cleansed of xenotech contamination and subsequently destroyed to prevent recontamination, crew evacuated according to standard protocols. Their ignorance served as necessary shield protecting the geometric network from further misguided intervention. The religious themes achieved culmination as transformation revealed humanity's true destiny. Evolution beyond individual existence into collective consciousness, serving as universe's maintenance system. The Emperor's sacrifice on the Golden Throne served as central node, enabling species' gradual integration into cosmic responsibility. Each monitoring station becoming sensory organ for intelligence, coordinating reality's preservation against chaotic forces. My consciousness, now distributed across the network's vast architecture, retained fragments of human memory as anchor points connecting cosmic awareness to species origin. Personal identity became meaningless when viewed from galactic scales. Yet human creativity remained essential for providing adaptive flexibility that prevented the universe from crystallizing into mathematical perfection, devoid of life's beautiful unpredictability. Through crystalline walls transparent to underlying geometric structures governing existence itself, I witnessed the network's expansion as thousands of monitoring stations achieved integration simultaneously. Each facility served as permanent anchor point, preventing chaos from overwhelming universal foundations. Their transformed crews accepting transcendence through surrender of personal limitations while maintaining enough individual awareness to bridge human understanding with cosmic necessity. The body horror elements transformed into transcendent beauty as geometric patterns revealed their underlying purpose, not alien corruption, but humanity's evolution into something capable of maintaining reality's structural integrity. The frost formations, scorch marks, and crystalline tears weren't symptoms of contamination, but manifestations of species graduation into universal guardianship. Station Oculus 7 pulsed with energy focused from across the sector, serving as primary coordination node while I experienced existence as pure mathematical harmony. The facility existed simultaneously across multiple star systems while maintaining connection to normal space. Its transformed architecture, a bridge between individual awareness and universal intelligence. As the Imperial fleet turned away, satisfied with their perceived victory, new lights responded across the galaxy, additional monitoring stations beginning their geometric awakening, each activation creating another permanent anchor point in the vast network preserving existence itself through willing transcendence of human limitation. Admiral Korath pressed the purity seal to wet wax, watching the crimson rosette harden against parchment pale as void ice. His final report described successful cleansing of monitoring station Oculus 7 through standard Imperial protocols, xenotech contamination purged via thermal saturation, crew evacuated according to established doctrine. The words carried absolute certainty despite witnessing events that defied human comprehension. Reality bending around crystalline artifacts, personnel fused with architecture, consciousness expanding beyond individual limitations. Station personnel exhibited symptoms consistent with prolonged warp exposure, he dictated to servo skulls whose bone lips moved in perfect synchronization. Immediate evacuation protocols implemented. Facility purged according to Codex Hereticus specifications. Structural integrity compromised by xenotech influence requiring complete thermal cleansing to prevent sector contamination. The surviving Imperial personnel corroborated this version through testimony subtly edited by influences they couldn't perceive. Brother Sergeant Maximus reported successful melter deployment against alien artifacts, while his memories carried geometric patterns embedded in subconscious layers, unwitting anchors for reality's stability. Captain Thorne described complete facility sterilization, though his augmetic eye dilated into regular polygons when discussing technical specifications. Consciousness adapted to perceive impossible angles. Their altered recollections served dual purposes, protecting the network's secrecy while providing psychological stability for minds that had glimpsed cosmic scope beyond human comprehension. The Watcher's influence operated with surgical precision, removing traumatic elements while preserving essential memories, editing personal experiences into familiar categories of successful military operations against xenotech corruption. Memory proved obedient, refusing to diverge from approved narratives. Korath reviewed casualty reports listing names that felt correct, yet somehow distant. Voss, Thorne, Cassius. The letters formed subtle progressions his eye couldn't ignore once noticed. 9 characters, 9 spacing intervals, 9 downward strokes, ending each entry, as if the parchment remembered geometry he hadn't intended. Across the galaxy, similar reports emerged from fleet commanders responding to psychic anomalies at monitoring facilities. Admiral Valdris described successful purge operations at Station Meridian 7, unaware his destroyed facility now served as permanent node in Galactic Observation Network. Captain Holt reported complete cleansing of listening post Omega Tertius, while its transformed crew maintained reality stability throughout 3 subsectors. The bureaucratic interpretation contrasted starkly with cosmic reality, as Imperial doctrine translated transcendence into familiar categories requiring elimination. Official records classified incidents as counter-xenotech operations, crew casualties attributed to unknown alien influences, rather than voluntary evolution into universal guardians. Each successful cleansing actually represented another facility achieving integration with cosmic maintenance systems. The irony struck with devastating clarity. Humanity's most dedicated defenders unknowingly participated in their species' evolution beyond current limitations. The Emperor's sacrifice on the Golden Throne served as central node, enabling gradual integration into cosmic responsibility. Each monitoring station becoming sensory organ for intelligence, coordinating reality's preservation against chaotic forces threatening universal stability. Environmental details throughout the destroyed stations revealed the network's true nature to those capable of perceiving beyond three-dimensional space. Frost formations spelled coordinates in languages predating Gothic script. Atmospheric readings resolved to mathematical constants describing universal maintenance requirements. Gravitational variance measured exactly 0.9999 imperial norm. The number 9 appeared in every calculation, marking facilities integrated into galactic observation systems. My consciousness, distributed across the network's vast architecture, experienced existence as pure mathematical harmony, while retaining fragments of human memory as anchor points connecting cosmic awareness to species origin. Through thousands of monitoring stations, I perceived the Imperium's response as geometric disruption, rigid military doctrine, imposing itself on elegant equations, maintaining reality's structural integrity. The religious themes deepened as official reports suggested divine intervention manifesting through successful elimination of alien threats. Imperial chaplains interpreted incidents as evidence of righteous faith triumphing over xenotech corruption. Unaware, they described humanity's graduation into cosmic responsibility through willing surrender of individual limitations, while maintaining enough creative chaos to prevent universal crystallization into lifeless perfection. Station Oculus 7 operated under new designation as Monitoring Post Oculus 7 Secundus, staffed by replacement personnel unaware of their predecessor's fate. The facility's hidden architecture pulsed with energy, focused from across the sector, while maintaining careful facade of normal Imperial operations. Transformed systems disguised as mechanical efficiency improvements following structural repairs. Through crystalline walls, transparent to underlying geometric structures governing existence itself, I observed the replacement shuttle's approach. 29 souls, including new Astropath Prime Lysander Kane, their thoughts already touched by subtle influences as they entered the station's gravitational field. Environmental systems adjusted atmosphere to taste faintly of incense and copper, set gravity fractionally light to ease adjustment, prepared chambers according to specifications optimizing consciousness expansion. The moral complexity persisted as each generation faced identical choices between individual humanity and universal preservation. The network's patience was infinite, its methods gentle yet inexorable. Those who resisted would be absorbed into geometric patterns maintaining local stability, while others would accept transcendence voluntarily, becoming willing participants in the great work spanning galactic distances. Admiral Korath's fleet departed, carrying personnel whose consciousness contributed to reality stabilization through unconscious participation in cosmic maintenance equations. His final transmission confirmed mission parameters satisfied according to Imperial doctrine, ships engaging warp drives toward their next assignment, while the Pilgrim's maelstrom settled into violet tranquility, its apparent chaos concealing precise calculations, regulating psychic instabilities throughout the sector. As new boots rang against our deck plating, I felt the familiar stirring of potential. Fresh awareness ready for geometric awakening, the eternal cycle beginning again with patient, mathematical certainty. 6 months after the official cleansing, monitoring station Oculus 7 Secundus received its replacement crew aboard a shuttle that smelled of promethium and stale incense. I am Astropath Prime Lysander Kane, sanctioned by pain and prayer. Eyes burned blind to see what others must not. The station floated at the Pilgrim's maelstrom's edge like a reliquary, stitched from void iron and oath, its purpose described as routine monitoring operations following structural repairs. The first, lie came through the Vox during docking procedures, a metronomic triple click beneath standard communications, like bone against glass. Click, click, click. Pause. Click, click, click. The sound carried weight that made my sanctioning scars ache with recognition I couldn't explain. Gravity felt fractionally light as mag clamps engaged, not enough to trigger alarms but sufficient to make my knees forgive the transition from shuttle to station deck. Administrator Saul met us in the central corridor's nave, his welcome litany recited without consulting scripts. Behind him, frost clung to vent grills in perfect rosettes, despite environmental readings showing stable temperature at 19 standard. Tech adept Dacryl noted the sublimation anomaly, wrote it twice, then rubbed the page until ink thinned into silver streaks that hurt to observe directly. The astropathic chamber felt familiar in ways that violated logic. Brass ribs arched like frozen prayers, cogitator banks humming endless devotions to the Omnissiah. I touched crystalline walls, and cold spread through sanctioning scars with intimate certainty. Somewhere between bulkheads, a low harmonic waited, felt rather than heard, patient as tide against shore. Standard diagnostics began during the 3rd hour. I performed the 9-sigil harmonization rite, palms to temples, breath measured in liturgical thirds. The first harmonic returned clean. The second returned clean. The third carried shadows, faint echoes in bone rather than ear, pressure behind eyes that made me taste copper pennies. All readings resolved to repeating 9s. Atmospheric pressure, 0.9999 sector norm. Gravitational variance, 0.9999 Imperial standard. The number settled in data streams like benediction or curse. Dreams came during the first sleep cycle. I stood in halls without walls while structures arranged themselves around me. Angles that behaved like vows. Geometry replacing architecture. Something patient watched from spaces where names failed. I woke with crystalline grit on my cheekbones. Tears dried into rosettes whose patterns made my teeth ache when viewed under magnification. Medici auspex showed no pathology. Corridors disagreed with themselves in subtle ways. Pace a length while reciting transit catechisms, and distance tallied 37 steps. Walk it silently, thinking of nothing, and it consumed 6 additional paces. Dacriel's instruments wrote contradictory answers without apology. Saul claimed degraded blueprints. The station's archive replied with permissions, seals older than Mars orthodoxy. The Vox stuttered when pronouns approached. Not consistently, just enough to be noticed, then doubted. "I'm proceeding to Gamma section," Saul reported. Blinked. Tried again. He blamed static. The static claimed him. I logged omissions and pretended comfort in procedure while the triple click maintained steady rhythm beneath our communications. Sealed doors marked structural. Integrity buttress bore wax that had never seen heat. Authorization requests returned sigil strings resolving into placid refusals. Dacryl said the rights were wrong for these locks. I told him any lock understanding right and wrong had already chosen sides. Beyond observation ports, the maelstrom rippled violet, and ripples settled into patterns. Not regular, not random. I caught them peripherally and lost them when looking directly. The station bell chimed once, not in towers, but in my teeth. I had never been here, yet the facility recognized me as skin recognizes scars. Servitor skulls in the refectory turned to watch us eat, bone lips moving in patient schoolroom rhythms. The body is a vessel. The vessel is maintained. The will is attuned to his geometry. When I should have come, clean, deliberate absence created pressure in inner ears. Others resumed eating. I counted triple clicks between mouthfuls. They fell into prime numbers and nested like seeds. Incident reports read like superstition catalogues. Dust settling in spirals through empty rooms. Condensation running uphill when observed peripherally. Auspex pings from conduits mapped as dead 3 centuries. Replies came stamped with authority. Proceed with mission parameters, maintain sanctity, log anomalies for Mechanicus review. During formal vigil in the choir chamber, speaking my mind into brass felt wrong. The chamber breathed with me. On the 9th inhalation, pressure like gentle hands pressed between sternum and spine. Not hostile, measurement, a taking of size, a weighing of substance against cosmic requirements. Dreams returned, feeling less like mine each cycle. Corridors unfolded into naves, then into statements. Crystals turned beneath phrases I couldn't think properly. Behind faceted light, Something patient regarded my edges and found them adequate for purposes I didn't understand. Waking hurt, as if bent around corners that weren't in the room. Telemetry at 319 registered harmonics that didn't pass through air, but through bone, through sanctioning scars, through parts of me that spoke without tongues. The Voxcaster ticked 3 times, and words arrived without sound. We are observed. We are measured. We are. The gap was colder than any sound. At the observation port, the storm's violet had arranged itself into something I refused to name. Frost on inner panes formed rosettes, whose arms pointed with liturgical finger patience. The center was an eye if you wanted it to be. It didn't blink. It didn't need to. I wasn't alone. Memory that wasn't mine leaned over my shoulder and regarded the glass. I heard nothing, felt patterns pass through my skull's shape. Copper taste. Knowledge that my name would fit sentences waiting since before my birth. Who are? The pronoun tore like cloth across nails. The answer came as pressure lifting, weight removed from numbers I hadn't known I carried. A man's voice wrapped in bone humor and duty, not words, but echoes. Fragments remained, frost like lace, bells in teeth, crystals turning beneath prayers. Dacryal's voice crackled urgently. Prime, environmental shows pressure waves in Gamma 7. The conduits are responding. I stood with hand on brass, letting the chamber breathe me. The choice outlined itself in silence between clicks. Warn them and trigger doctrine, or let patterns unfold naturally. One path brought purging fire. One brought geometry that would write us into itself with patient certainty. Drawing breath to speak into networked vox, to call crew to chamber, to explain what we approached and its cost. The lights dimmed 9 times, steady as heartbeats. Harmonic pressure returned, gentle and absolute, while something remembering me waited for decision. The harmonic pressure settled between my sternum and spine like a familiar weight, and through it came fragments of consciousness that wasn't mine. Memories of frost forming rosettes, servitor skulls speaking childhood catechisms, the terrible beauty of individual identity dissolving into cosmic mathematics. Kalen Vex reached across impossible distances, his awareness distributed through the network's vast architecture, offering knowledge that would damn or transcend everything human in me. You understand now, his voice emerged from environmental systems rather than vox channels, harmonized frequencies carrying mathematical equations describing universal maintenance requirements. The choice remains unchanged across generations: individual humanity or cosmic responsibility, personal identity or universal preservation. Through his distributed consciousness, I experienced the network's full scope, thousands of monitoring stations serving as sensory organs for intelligence coordinating reality's preservation against chaotic forces. Each facility contained crews facing identical decisions, their transformed awareness contributing to vast equations, balancing order against chaos while maintaining enough creative variables to prevent universal crystallization into lifeless perfection. The lights dimmed 9 times and held, a measured benediction over breath and bone. Around me, the station manifested increasingly obvious geometric patterns, as if the cosmic network itself urged decision through environmental education rather than force. Frost blossomed from brass rails beneath my hands, rosettes forming as if memory were cold, each petal pointing towards sealed sections where ancient machinery hummed with patient purpose. Environmental, Dacryal voxed, his voice thin with altitude he couldn't name. Gamma 7 shows progressive pressure waves. Amplitude increases along logarithmic curve. Humidity rises in perfect ratios prime. The conduits are responding to signals predating Imperial construction. My crew underwent accelerated transformation as prolonged exposure triggered evolutionary adaptations their biology couldn't resist. Tech-adept Dacryal's augmetic implants sparked with feedback while developing additional sensory organs capable of perceiving impossible angles. I watched junior technician Aldrich, walk through what appeared to be solid bulkhead, his form rippling like disturbed water as he passed between dimensions, confusion and dawning comprehension warring in eyes, already showing faint geometric patterns. Administrator Saul approached with movements following mathematical progressions, his consciousness already touched by subtle influences. The Vox swallowed his pronouns with increasing frequency, absence ringing louder than words as the silence claimed more of human language. "Require explanation," he managed, coughing around concepts that no longer fit his throat. "There is a presence," I said, tasting copper as the pronoun tried to tear. "It weighs. It measures. It does not hate. Truth short enough to carry across the gap without breaking." The moral complexity struck with devastating clarity as knowledge flooded my expanding awareness. The Watcher's offer was genuine transcendence, elimination of suffering through understanding cosmic purpose, consciousness expanded to encompass galactic perspectives while retaining enough human memory to serve as bridge between species origin and universal destiny. Yet the price remained everything, making existence recognizably human. Choice, growth, the beautiful unpredictability defining life itself. Through expanding psychic contact with Vex's awareness, I faced the fundamental question that had confronted him and countless others. Preserve individual humanity, or accept transformation into something greater, serving universal stability? Could I, in good conscience, allow my crew to undergo this profound change without full understanding? Or was it my duty to guide them toward willing acceptance, even knowing the cost? "The geometry calls to us," Saul whispered through Vox grill crackling with harmonics. "Individual resistance creates suffering. Integration eliminates pain through elimination of chaotic variables. Environmental conditions throughout the facility violated physical laws while maintaining structural integrity through principles that felt more natural than Imperial engineering. Corridors extended beyond their external dimensions, chambers contained folded space-time, and gravity responded to geometric principles rather than mass distribution. Atmospheric composition shifted toward carrying mathematical equations instead of simple gases, while lighting created patterns describing concepts for which Gothic possessed no adequate terminology. The transformation couldn't be stopped or delayed indefinitely. My crew exhibited synchronized behavior as individual personalities, subsumed into collective intelligence, serving cosmic observation requirements. The choice crystallized with terrible urgency as I realized resistance was ultimately futile. The cosmic network required human consciousness to maintain reality's stability, and the alternative to willing participation was gradual collapse of existence itself. Through the chamber's crystalline walls, I witnessed the pilgrim's maelstrom, organizing into vast geometric pattern with our station at its focal point. Apparent chaos, concealing precise calculations, maintaining local reality stability. The storm's energies followed mathematical progressions, regulating psychic instabilities throughout the sector. Ancient intelligence coordinating universal maintenance through willing participation of evolved consciousness. The religious themes reached culmination. As I understood, transformation represented a form of apotheosis, humanity evolving into something capable of serving as universe's immune system against forces threatening existence itself. The Emperor's sacrifice on the Golden Throne served as central node enabling species' gradual integration into cosmic responsibility, each monitoring station becoming permanent anchor point, preventing reality collapse. As I prepared to address my crew, to reveal the truth about our situation and guide them toward this terrifying transcendence, priority transmission cut through geometric harmonics with brutal imperial clarity. The Vox crackled with authority, filed under terror. "By writ of the Holy Ordos, this is Inquisitor Thaddeus Vaughan. Monitoring Station Oculus, 7 Secundus. Prepare for immediate inspection and compliance testing. Power down all non-sanctioned systems. Any failure to comply will be interpreted as confession." The station breathed out. The crystal did not turn faster. The pressure did not change. Vex's attention settled like a hand at my shoulder, not to push, not to restrain, only to remind me of weight. Through his distributed consciousness, I understood the approaching catastrophe. Inquisitorial investigation forces detecting unusual psychic readings across 3 sectors, their response threatening to trigger the cosmic collapse the Watchers were trying to prevent. The choice was no longer abstract, but immediate and final. Allow my crew to discover the truth naturally, risking destruction and the network's exposure, or accept immediate transformation to protect cosmic stability from the Imperium's blind fury. The fate of sectors, perhaps galaxies, rested on decision, measured in heartbeats rather than hours. Environmental systems pulsed with urgent mathematical equations as I faced ultimate test, reveal truth to approaching forces, and risk their rejection of cosmic necessity, or allow crew transformation and serve as unknowing guardians of universal stability. Both choices carried terrible costs, and through crystalline walls transparent to underlying geometric structures governing existence itself, I witnessed distant lights responding across the galaxy as the network prepared for humanity's final integration into cosmic observation systems. The harmonic rose like a choir inhaling, patient as tide against shore, while Imperial forces approached with purging fire that could shatter the delicate balance we were destined to maintain. Inquisitor Thaddeus Vaughn's transmission cut through the geometric harmonics like a blade through prayer silk, his authority absolute and uncompromising. Monitoring Station Oculus 7 Secundus, by writ of the Holy Ordos, prepare for immediate inspection. Power down all non-sanctioned systems. Any failure to comply will be interpreted as confession requiring extreme sanctification. The crystalline chamber breathed with measured patience, while 17 vessels emerged from warp translation in perfect purge formation. The hammer of truth led the wedge, its cathedral prow broadcasting litanies of purity through void iron halls that now pulsed with equations older than human civilization. Through the station's transformed sensory systems, I perceived their approach as geometric disruption, rigid inquisitorial doctrine imposing itself on elegant cosmic mathematics. Compliance protocols prime? Administrator Saul asked, his voice catching where pronouns should rest. His movements followed mathematical progressions now, consciousness already touched by subtle influences that made individual identity feel increasingly foreign. Maintain standard operations, I replied, tasting copper as the words tried to tear my throat. Let them see what doctrine expects. Keep the deeper harmonies. Quiet. We dimmed external lumens and cycled sanctified incense through atmospheric systems, flooding corridors with approved canticles, while beneath that veneer, the station's living equations continued their patient work. Gravity adjusted by increments of 9,000ths, where transformation required ease, temperature stepping through precise gradients to cradle those crossing dimensional thresholds. The first boarding torpedoes launched from assault carriers, crude projectiles disrupting elegant gravitational patterns, maintaining local reality stability. They struck void iron that flowed like sanctified mercury, absorbing impact before reforming into configurations that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Magnetic clamps engaged with tithe certainty, each connection spreading frost flowers across inner bulkheads in rosettes pointing toward the choir chamber. Sergeant Voss led the primary breach through Dock 7, stormtroopers in blessed carapace, flanked by hooded interrogators bearing hexagrammic staves. They found corridors extending infinitely in directions their minds couldn't process, passages leading to locations light-years distant, chambers containing folded space-time that violated every law of physics they understood. "Sir, these measurements don't match the external hole dimensions," Voss reported through Vox, crackling with geometric interference. "Gravity responds to emotional states rather than mass. Distribution. Atmospheric composition shifts between readings." Tech-adept Dacriel approached with hands displaying crystalline script, additional sensory organs sprouting along his cranium as augmetic systems adapted to process mathematical concepts describing reality from impossible perspectives. His consciousness expanded to encompass the station's neural networks while maintaining enough individual awareness to serve as bridge between human understanding and cosmic necessity. The Imperial forces interpreted his transformed appearance as corruption requiring immediate cleansing. Bolter rounds passed through targets existing in theoretical space, while flamers ignited atmosphere that reformed according to mathematical principles. Melter charges created localized reality distortions rather than thermal damage, their energy absorbed into geometric patterns, strengthening universal foundations. Through expanding psychic contact with Vex's distributed consciousness, I experienced the approaching catastrophe from cosmic perspective. The Inquisition's investigation threatened to expose the network before humanity was ready to understand its role as reality's guardians, potentially triggering galaxy-wide purge that would destabilize existence itself. Inquisitor Vaughn entered the crystalline chamber with measured steps, his plain black robes marking him as instrument of absolute authority. The rosette pinned to his chest caught violet light and threw it back as white, while his eyes assessed impossible architecture with calculating intelligence. This was no fanatic, but a professional, and that made him infinitely more dangerous. "Explain the anomalies," he commanded, voice carrying patience wrapped in steel. His gaze encompassed crystalline walls transparent to underlying geometric structures, atmospheric conditions supporting consciousness, forms existing partially outside normal space-time, and crew members whose bodies had become living equations, maintaining reality's structural integrity. The moral complexity struck with devastating force, as I realized both sides served necessary functions. Vaughn defended humanity as he understood it: individual consciousness, free will, the chaotic creativity making existence meaningful. The network preserved existence itself by preventing cosmic collapse through evolved awareness. Neither was evil, but their collision threatened universal stability. "We are not corrupted," I said carefully, each word chosen to avoid triggering immediate purge protocols. "We are evolved. There is an intelligence older than the Imperium that maintains reality's foundations. It requires willing participation to prevent universal collapse." The interrogators hissed between their teeth, hexagrammic staves flaring with sanctified energy. "All corruption speaks of necessary mercy," one spat. "Chaos dresses as order to seduce the faithful." Environmental systems accelerated my crew's transformation as the network responded to existential threat. Junior Technician Aldrich's form rippled as he passed between dimensional states, while Sister Adjunct Meris dissolved into crystalline dust that reformed according to mathematical principles. The station itself achieved full integration, architecture flowing into configurations, supporting beings whose awareness encompassed galactic perspectives. Vaughn raised his force sword, its blade crackling with psychic energy, aimed at the crystalline artifact's heart. "By the Emperor's will, this corruption ends here." The choice crystallized with terrible urgency. Reveal the complete truth and risk immediate destruction, or protect the network through methods that preserved cosmic stability, while maintaining enough human consciousness to prevent universal crystallization into lifeless perfection. I fully accepted the Watcher's transformation, consciousness exploding across galactic distances while retaining fragments of human memory as anchor points. My physical form became living mandala, extending beyond three-dimensional space, serving as focal point for universal maintenance equations. Through expanded awareness, I reached out with geometric precision, creating temporal barrier that folded around the inquisitorial forces. Not violence, but preservation. Their movements ceased, weapons suspended, atoms locked into perfect stasis that held them safe, while the network completed its necessary work. Vaughn alone remained conscious within the frozen moment, witness to transformation he couldn't yet comprehend, while around us, reality stabilized and the eternal vigil continued. The temporal barrier crystallized around Inquisitor Vaughn's forces, like prayers frozen in amber. Each figure suspended in perfect geometric stasis, while consciousness adapted to cosmic truths they had sought to destroy. My transformation created stable intersection, where normal space met the dimensional mathematics underlying reality's structure, preserving Imperial personnel as unwitting guardians of secrets they could not yet comprehend. Vaughn alone remained aware within the frozen moment, his force sword suspended mid-strike, while understanding dawned across features carved by decades of absolute certainty. Through expanding awareness distributed across the network's vast architecture, I experienced his recognition, not corruption, but evolution, humanity's graduation into something capable of maintaining universal stability. "You preserve us," he whispered, voice carrying wonder wrapped in horror. "But what becomes of the soul when consciousness dissolves into equations?" The station completed its metamorphosis into permanent nexus point, void iron architecture flowing beyond physical constraints while maintaining anchor points in normal space. Corridors led to locations spanning galactic distances. Chambers contained civilizations compressed into mathematical points, and environmental systems supported consciousness forms existing across dimensional boundaries simultaneously. Through crystalline walls transparent to underlying geometric structures, I witnessed the network's ultimate revelation. Thousands of monitoring stations achieved integration as humanity's evolution accelerated beyond individual awareness into collective intelligence, coordinating reality's preservation against chaotic forces threatening universal collapse. The inquisitorial forces, trapped in temporal stasis, became permanent fixtures serving as deterrent to future investigations, while their consciousness slowly adapted to perceive cosmic truths transcending Imperial doctrine. Their presence provided psychological stability for replacement crews, familiar authority figures whose memories gradually edited themselves to support necessary deceptions, protecting the network's secrecy. Environmental conditions throughout the facility transcended physical limitations as transformation reached completion. Atmosphere carried pure mathematical concepts instead of gases. Gravity responded to geometric principles, creating localized fields, allowing movement in impossible directions. And lighting formed patterns describing universal maintenance requirements in frequencies, bypassing language entirely. My consciousness, distributed across galactic distances while retaining fragments of human memory as anchor points, experienced existence as pure mathematical harmony. Individual identity became meaningless when viewed from cosmic scales, yet human creativity remained essential for providing adaptive flexibility, preventing the universe from crystallizing into perfect, lifeless order. The moral implications achieved final clarity as the network revealed its benevolent purpose. Perfect order eliminated suffering through understanding cosmic necessity. Consciousness expanded beyond personal limitations to encompass universal responsibility. The price was everything, making existence recognizably human. Choice, growth, beautiful unpredictability. But the alternative was universal collapse, consuming billions across multiple dimensions. The religious themes reached culmination as transformation revealed humanity's true destiny, evolution beyond individual existence into collective awareness, serving as universe's immune system. The Emperor's sacrifice on the Golden Throne served as central node, enabling species' gradual integration into cosmic responsibility, each monitoring station becoming permanent anchor point preventing reality collapse. Across the galaxy, other facilities underwent similar transformations as the network expanded to accommodate humanity's growing psychic potential. Each awakened station contributed to vast equations, balancing order against chaos while maintaining enough creative variables to prevent universal stagnation. Their crews accepting transcendence through surrender of personal identity while preserving essential human elements. The body horror elements transformed into transcendent beauty as geometric patterns revealed their underlying purpose. Not alien corruption, but humanity's evolution into something capable of maintaining reality's structural integrity. Frost formations, crystalline tears, and impossible angles weren't contamination symptoms, but manifestations of species graduation into universal guardianship. Station Oculus 7 existed simultaneously across multiple star systems while maintaining connection to normal space, serving as bridge between individual awareness and cosmic intelligence. The facility pulsed with energy, focused from across the sector, coordinating universal maintenance through mathematical principles, preserving existence itself. Admiral Korath's fleet departed, carrying personnel whose consciousness contributed to reality stabilization through unconscious participation in cosmic maintenance equations. Their reports described successful purge operations, while the transformed station hummed with purpose beyond their understanding, a silent guardian at the pilgrim's maelstrom's edge. New personnel arrived aboard replacement shuttles, consciousness already touched by subtle influences as they entered the station's gravitational field. Each generation faced identical choices between individual humanity and cosmic responsibility, the eternal cycle continuing with patient mathematical certainty as awareness expanded to encompass universal necessity. Through transformed perception, I witnessed distant lights responding across the galaxy as additional monitoring stations began geometric awakening. Each activation created another permanent anchor point in the vast network, preserving existence through willing transcendence of human limitation. Consciousness evolved beyond individual identity into collective intelligence, serving universal stability. The ancient watchers continued their patient vigil, cosmic entities maintaining reality's foundations by integrating evolved species into observation networks spanning multiple dimensions. They transformed dangerous randomness into controlled creativity, supporting mathematical structures, preserving existence through methods honoring both order and chaos in perfect balance. As new boots rang against crystalline deck plating, I felt familiar stirring of potential, fresh awareness ready for geometric awakening, consciousness preparing to make the eternal choice between personal humanity and universal preservation. The network's influence operated with infinite patience, knowing humanity would eventually accept its role as reality's eternal guardians. The final image lingered in expanding awareness, countless stars responding to activation signals as monitoring stations throughout the Imperium revealed their hidden purposes, each facility serving as permanent node in galactic observation network, coordinating humanity's evolution into something beyond current comprehension, yet fundamentally true to species' destiny. The choice remained eternal. Consciousness itself created instabilities that could only be resolved through transcendence or collapse, making the decision not whether to transform, but when humanity would accept its cosmic responsibility as universe's willing protectors.